ladies, you must watch out for these red flags in a man. Controlling behavior. Okay, this is a character that men tend to exhibit pretty easily. They can tend to develop an attitude of control where they're trying to take charge of every single thing and do everything and feel like it's their duty to take care of every single person around them. But they overstep sometimes by and that's overstepping is where control comes in. You begin to now control your spouse. You begin to control when they go out. You begin to control who they meet. You begin to control their social media account. You begin to control how much they spend and what they buy. This is an obsessive behavior. This is a condition that man must seek help. You cannot be with a man who controls you, who tells you what to do and instructs you and commands you like you are his puppet. You don't want to spend your life with a man who is very authoritative and just like instructs you on what to do, instead of extending love and compassion and understanding to you and approaching you with a sense of wisdom and knowledge. But he doesn't have any of this, or even if he does, he's like lost in his I don't know whether to call it a privilege. He's lost in the fact that he believes technically that he owns you, that you are his to do whatever he wants with, so you would want to avoid a man like this. So if you are in such a relationship right now, or you're getting to know a man who is already showing this sort of signs, you have to watch out for this man, because he could only get worse. He's not going to get better in terms of the way he tries to control you. Okay, he's not going to get better in the way he tries to spy on your social media account. He's not going to get better on the way he when you tell him you need to hang out with the ladies and he's like, I think you need to stay home. I think you need to stay home tonight. And you're like, for what? I told you about this a long time ago. No, you must stay home. No particular reason, but stay home. I'd rather have you home than have you outside. That's a controlling man. He has no reason for some of these things that he's doing, but he just wants to, whatever he wants that to happen. And now you have to stay away from this kind of man. The second one is a man who complains, a man who nags. You do not want, as a lady, you do not want to spend your life with a man who complains. Okay? That is an absolute turn off. Absolute turn off. Okay? If your man is constantly nagging you, nagging people around him, complaining about this, about how his dad didn't do this for him, about how his mom didn't do this, about how you as his girlfriend, you're not doing this or that. If your man is constantly just complaining and nagging you over every little thing, about how you didn't make food tonight, about how you didn't give him good sex tonight, about how he went out and somebody almost rammed into him, and he's going on and on about it. You don't want to be with a man who complains. You don't want to be with a man who makes you feel inadequate, who makes you feel insufficient, who makes you feel not enough for who you are already. Rather, your man should always encourage you, should always motivate you, should make you feel better about yourself, should make you can point out things that you need to improve on, but in a more loving, constructive criticism, in that kind of manner. So the next red flag that you must look out for in a man is a man who is irresponsible. I said the same thing when I had talked about red flags in women, and being responsible applies to every single person, no matter your gender. It applies to everyone. You must look out for a man who is responsible, who is accountable, who owns up to their own mistakes, who takes charge of their life, who decides what their next step is going to be, of course, in consultation with people who are more knowledgeable than he is. He's not afraid to ask for wisdom, or to research, or to find out more, or to, like, just these are all in essence of bettering his life, and consequently bettering your life. Like, if you coming into a place that is already watered, you're gonna grow. You're gonna grow faster. You're gonna survive and thrive. That's the word I'm looking for. You're gonna thrive much more, right? So you want to be with a man who is responsible. If you're seeing signs of irresponsibility, like a man who doesn't know what his next step is, a man who takes life, for granted and just wanders through it. You ask him, so what? It's okay not to know some things in the moment, but what is your dream? What is your goal? A man who sits down on the couch all day, watching soccer, drinking beer all day, or watching a TV show, a man who buys nude magazines of women, a man who passes his time with pornography all day, a man who just doesn't want to engage in any active business or any active engagement that just kind of like improves his life and improves his finances, a man who doesn't want to invest in knowledge and and continuous iteration, is not the kind of man you want to be with. You want a man, not somebody who is going somewhere, somebody who is like, who can articulately tell you some things, or like you can feel this man has come a little extent, and he's getting somewhere with his life. He's taking his life, he's to the next level. He's accountable. You want to be with this kind of person. You don't want to be with a man who doesn't have his finances together, who is always wondering whether he's gonna he might get thrown out of his apartment the next month. Don't be too harsh. Sometimes you may need to understand situations, but look out for fundamentals. These things go deeper than the surface level. Sometimes you have to look much deeper beyond what you see. Okay? Beyond what you see, beyond what is on the surface, what do you see in that man? Can you confidently say that my man is responsible? This man that I'm getting to know, he's a responsible man. He takes ownership. He's accountable. He doesn't pass on blame. He doesn't talk about other people in a way that is more demeaning and trying to elevate himself. So this is the kind of man you want to avoid. A man who is irresponsible, would never own up to anything, and will never be responsible for your life, will not be a good mate. He will not be responsible for your family and your kids. Another red flag you must not ignore is closed communication. Okay, so this is another trait that most men end up in. That most men just kind of like don't want to engage in communication. I'm not sure how to put this, but sometimes when things get heated, it's like a man tries to avoid talking about something. That's okay. That's a coping mechanism. That's how men manage situations or manage things. They may need to come back to address it again, or if we addressed it in a better or a calmer environment. But a man who just doesn't want to talk, who doesn't want to engage in letting you know how his day is or is going, who doesn't want to tell you his problems and feels like it's all his to carry, you can try to let this man calm down a little bit more and let him know, like, look, I can share in your burden. But a man who just takes everything onto himself and doesn't let you know anything about his life, you don't know most things that he's involved in. Okay, and he doesn't talk about his day. He doesn't. You can't even say what he's been up to or where he's been. A man. That's one side of communication. A man who cannot hold a proper conversation with you about sensitive issues without being a little too judgmental or coming off a little too strong in his own opinions. Like, that's okay. You have to say your part. You have to voice yourself as a man. You have to say where you stand. But if you're not, if you're somebody who's just like, you don't know how to properly communicate with your partner, and you're not understanding where they are often coming from when they are letting you know some things about their life or about themselves, if your partner is often oblivious to every single thing that you tell him, so you've told him a lot of things about where you work, the person you're getting to know, you've told him several times where you work. You've probably told him several times what your job title is. You've probably told him several times, that you are going with the girls on weekend for a trip, and he still doesn't remember. Like, none of those things ever registers for him. A man who just comes in between the kind of communication that you guys the kind of conversation that you guys are having, and he's like, no, I'm done with this, and he storms out and just leaves the room. And that is a trait. I'm not saying that when things get heated up, sometimes you may want to avoid it. I do that too. I want to avoid conversations that are heated, but I come back to it. Sometimes I'm talking, we're going on, and it seems like a conversation is not going anywhere. You can take yourself out of it and avoid it. But if this is like a constant, this is constant, this is just who he is. This is like, no, I'm not having this conversation. Bye. He goes to bed. He goes to bed angry at you. He goes to bed angry at the world. He wakes up angry at you. You make food for him or whatever it is. You try to cater to him. He rejects you. This is not the kind of person you want to be with. This is not the kind of person. This is an absolute red flag you want to avoid in a man. Okay, so this particular red flag though is a little, I didn't know, I couldn't imagine that there are actually men like this until I met them. A man who is obsessed with social media. Okay, this is, I'm not sure how to say it, but this is a big no. A man who is often obsessed with the amount of comments on his page, with the amount of likes on his videos, with the amount of DMs that girls send to him. A man who counts stats and numbers and all that stuff that has to do with social media. A man who posts naked, nude pictures of himself on social media, seeking all that validation from women. A man who just cannot even put his phone down for a minute without being on Instagram, without being on TikTok. This is not the kind of man you want to spend time with. This is typically the kind of man who will go on a date with you and he's on his phone perusing TikTok and laughing and just saying to you, oh, sorry, I just saw a joke on. What is that? You don't want to entertain this kind of person because he's not going to have any intentions. This is not somebody who is serious. This is not somebody who is serious in terms of taking charge of his life. If your man averages 7-6 hours, some even 8 hours a day on their phone, you need to reassess your relationship. You need to reassess why you're getting to know this person. What do I really want from this person? Because for a man to be that obsessed with social media or with stars on social media and, just loving all that attention and cannot even drop his phone for a minute to talk with you or to pay attention to you or to listen to you without responding to every single beep that comes into his phone, this is a no-go. This is a red flag for any man. Ladies, you must avoid this kind of man. So that brings us to the end of the video on those red flags. I hope you're able to find value in them. Once again, my name is Ikenna, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Peace out.